There are moments in life that arrive without noise, without warning, and yet they change everything. The moment I realized my daughter no longer saw me as her father didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came through a phone call she forgot to end. And in that quiet mistake, something inside me cracked in a way I never expected. My name is Frank Morgan. I'm a retired civil engineer, a widower, and until recently, a man who believed he had raised his only child with love, gratitude, and respect. I live just outside Victoria, British Columbia, in a house I built myself more than 2 decades ago. Every beam, every wire, every nail was placed by my hands while my wife, Margaret, stood nearby, smiling, pregnant with our daughter, Lauren. That house wasn't just shelter. It was our promise to each other. After Margaret passed away, the house became quiet in a way I learned to tolerate. I kept it clean. I tended the garden she loved. I brewed tea every morning even when I barely drank it, just to fill the air with something warm. My days followed a gentle rhythm, steady and lonely, but manageable. Lauren called me one evening like she usually did. Her voice was soft, familiar, almost comforting. She asked if I had eaten, reminded me about grocery apps, spoke the way a caring daughter should. I told her I was fine. I didn't mention the photograph of her mother I'd been staring at for an hour, or how the walls felt heavier lately. Before hanging up, she said she loved me. I said it back without hesitation. Then I heard movement, muffled voices, and realized the call was still connected. Lauren hadn't noticed. She was speaking to her husband. That's when I heard myself described not as a father, but as a problem to be managed. He left the stove on again yesterday, Lauren said, like she was reading a line from a report. What if the whole place had gone up? We can't keep pretending everything's fine. Her husband, Ethan, answered with the kind of calm that isn't calm at all, more like impatience wearing a suit. It's time. Assisted living. If we wait, he'll dig his heels in. He won't, Lauren replied. Dad trusts us. He always has. There was a pause. Then Ethan's voice lowered, practical. And the house. In this market, it could go for close to $1 million. That's our future, Lauren. My throat tightened, so hard I thought it might close. I sat perfectly still, the phone warm against my ear, listening to my daughter agree with him in small, careful sounds. We'll frame it as safety, she said. We'll tell him it's temporary. Once he signs, we can handle everything. Handle everything. Like I was a set of keys. The phone slipped from my fingers and hit the hardwood with a soft thud. I didn't reach for it. I stared at the living room. The same room where Margaret had danced with Lauren on her 5th birthday, where I'd built a fort out of couch cushions, where we'd watched old movies on winter nights. The grandfather clock kept ticking, faithful as ever, as if time didn't care what had just been stolen from me. I didn't sleep. I watched the dark crawl across the windows and thought about all the years I'd worked overtime so Lauren could have dance lessons, braces, university. Thought about the down payment I'd helped with, the car loan I'd co-signed, the months they'd lived here rent-free when Ethan needed a reset. I'd called it family. They'd called it leverage. Near dawn, I stood at the hallway mirror and studied my own face. 74 years, gray hair, weathered hands, a man who'd built bridges and homes, who'd held his wife as she took her last breath. I looked useful. That was the problem. I'd made it easy to be used. By sunrise, the hurt hadn't vanished, but something sharper had taken its place. Clarity. The house felt different that morning. Same light through the curtains, same smell of coffee, same creak in the 3rd stair, but it no longer felt like a refuge. It felt like evidence. I stood outside Lauren's old bedroom and stared at the bookshelf I built when she was 16, still holding yearbooks she never bothered to collect. I remembered the little girl who used to run barefoot through the hallway, shouting that one day she would buy me a boat. I wanted to believe she was still in there, but the voice on the phone had been cold, organized, certain. Before noon, I opened the locked drawer of my desk and pulled out the folder Margaret insisted we keep updated. The deed, the policies, the will, and a business card for a lawyer named Todd Fisher. Todd listened without interrupting. When I finished, he spoke carefully. Frank, the title is in your name. Your daughter can't sell the house, can't force you anywhere, and she can't sign for you unless you give her that authority. A strange relief washed over me. Not comfort. Permission. If I sell it myself. I asked, how quickly can it happen? Fast, Todd said. You'll need a realtor who can do it discreetly. I'll handle the legal work. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the counter Margaret chose because it reminded her of Sun on Water. In my mind, I heard Ethan saying our future and Lauren saying, Dad trusts us. They were right about one thing. I had trusted them. That afternoon, I searched realtors the way I used to vet contractors. No flash, no smooth talking, just proof. One name kept rising to the top, Mia Reynolds, known for quiet sales and cash buyers. I called and asked for a private meeting. When Mia arrived, she walked the rooms with respectful eyes, like she could feel the care inside the walls. This home has been loved, she said. It has, I answered, and now it needs to be protected. Mia nodded once. Then we move quickly, she said, and I signed the first form now. Mia brought in a photographer, but not the kind who staged homes with fake fruit bowls and rented smiles. She kept it simple, natural light, honest angles, a house that spoke for itself. I spent the next 2 days packing only what mattered. Not furniture, not the heavy things that belonged to a life that ended with Margaret. I took the photo albums, my tools, a few shirts, Margaret's recipe box, and the small quilt she stitched while Lauren was in college. Every room I emptied felt like lifting a memory without tearing it. On the third day, Mia called. Cash offer, she said. No conditions. Close in 10 days. 10 days. Less than 2 weeks to erase the plan Lauren and Ethan thought they were building behind my back. I didn't celebrate. I thanked Mia and asked her to keep everything quiet. Then I made my own move. I toured a senior community across town called Harbor Glen. Not nurses and fluorescent lights. More like a quiet condo building with an elevator, a garden path, and a library that smelled like old paper. The unit I chose had a west-facing window that caught the sunset the way Margaret used to watch it from our porch. I signed the lease that afternoon. That night, I walked the hallway one last time as its owner and touched Margaret's frame on the mantel. I'm not letting them turn us into a transaction, I whispered. In the morning, I changed the locks. I installed a small camera under the porch eave, hidden in the ivy. Then I wrote one letter, steady and plain. Lauren, I heard you. I'm leaving on my terms. I'm not confused, and I'm not yours to manage. This house was built from your mother's love and my hands. It was never meant to be a reward for waiting. I sealed the envelope and placed it on the entry table. By noon, a small moving company I hired in cash loaded my boxes without questions. When the truck pulled away, I stood on the porch and listened to the emptiness settle. I didn't say goodbye out loud. I just closed the door gently, as if Margaret were sleeping inside. 3 days later, a dark rental SUV rolled into the driveway like it owned the place. Lauren stepped out first, sunglasses on her head, vacation glow still on her cheeks. Ethan followed, already irritated. They climbed the porch steps with the confidence of people returning to something guaranteed. Lauren slid her key into the lock. It didn't turn. She tried again, harder. The metal clicked and refused. Ethan reached past her, impatient, and shoved his own key in, twisting until his knuckles whitened. Nothing. Lauren stared at the door as if it had insulted her. He changed the locks, she muttered. Ethan's jaw tightened. Why would he do that? Through the glass panel beside the door, Lauren spotted the envelope on the entry table. Her name was written across in my handwriting, sharp and unmistakable. She knocked once and tried to handle again, as if knocking might reset reality. Then she pressed her face closer to the glass, eyes scanning the hallway. The house looked too still, too empty. No coat on the hook, no slippers by the stairs. No sign of me. Her mouth went dry. Ethan looked down the street, then back at the door. We can call a locksmith, he said, like the problem with hardware. Lauren didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the envelope. No, she whispered. Not until I read that. Lauren pulled out her phone and called me. It rang. I didn't answer. From my new place, with late sunlight spilling across the floor, I watched the camera feed on my phone. I watched her look small for the first time in years. Not because she was helpless, but because she was facing something she couldn't talk her way around. She called again. Then she texted. Then she knocked harder, like Louderman entitled. Ethan leaned in close and said something that made her flinch. She shook her head, angry now, and pointed at the envelope through the glass. That was when she understood. This wasn't misunderstanding. It was a decision. Lauren finally stepped back, breathing fast, and marched around to the side gate, the same gate she used to sneak through as a teenager when she missed curfew. She found it unlocked because I wanted her inside. I wanted her to stand in that silence and feel it. They entered through the back door. The house was spotless, but it was wrong, like a stage after the actors leave. No sound of a kettle, no television humming, no footsteps from the second floor, just their own breathing and the heavy echo of their assumptions collapsing. Lauren walked straight to the entry table and snatched the envelope. Her fingers trembled just enough to betray her. She tore it open with a sharp rip, eyes moving fast over the page. Ethan hovered at her shoulder. "Well," he demanded, "what does it say?" Lauren didn't answer. Her face changed in slow waves. First pale, then red, then something hollow. She shoved the letter toward him as if it burned. Ethan read, and his expression twisted. He's accusing us," Ethan snapped. "He's acting like we were villains." Lauren's voice came out then. "He heard us." Silence dropped between them like a weight. Ethan crumpled the letter in his fist. "So what? We were trying to help him." "No," Lauren said, louder than she meant to. "We were trying to control him." Ethan's eyes flashed. "Because he can't live alone." Lauren pointed at the empty kitchen, the counters shining like they always did. "Then why were you talking about the market? About $1 million? Why did you say our future?" Ethan's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, because that's what it is. Equity, security, a chance for us to finally what? Lauren's voice cracked. "To finally get what you think we're owed?" Ethan took a step toward her. "Don't pretend you're innocent. You were the one who said he trusts us. You were counting on that." Lauren's shoulders dropped like something heavy slid off them. "I know," she whispered, and that admission was uglier than any argument. Ethan turned away, pacing. "He's being dramatic. He's punishing us." Lauren stared at the living room, the couch where she used to curl up beside Margaret, and her eyes filled, not with tears of guilt, but with the shock of losing control. "He didn't punish us," she said. "He protected himself." Lauren sank into the armchair in the corner, the one I used to sit in when she was small and afraid of thunderstorms. She touched the fabric, like it might prove I was still somewhere nearby. "We should go," she murmured, but she didn't move. Ethan scoffed. "Go where? We need to fix this. We need to talk to him." "Talk to him," Lauren repeated, and the words sounded strange in her mouth, like she'd forgotten how. She looked at the empty hallway again. He's not picking up. Ethan's phone was already in his hand. He left a voicemail, voice sharp and rehearsed. "Frank, this is ridiculous. Call us back. We're worried about you. We can help." The word help landed like a lie on the hardwood. Lauren walked into the kitchen, opened cabinets at random, as if expecting to find proof I'd only stepped out for groceries. But the shelves were bare in places, and the small signs were everywhere once you knew how to look. The missing mug I always used, the drawer without my cutlery, the refrigerator cleared of my leftovers. I hadn't vanished. I had moved. That realization finally cracked something real in her. She gripped the counter, breathing through her nose, and for a brief second she looked less like a strategist and more like the daughter I remembered. "He didn't even tell me," she whispered. Ethan spun toward her. "Because he's being stubborn. He's confused." Lauren's eyes snapped up. "Stop saying that." Her voice was low, dangerous. "He's not confused. He's angry, and he has every right." Ethan's lips pressed into a hard line. "So what now?" "We wait while he wastes money in some place with bingo nights and plastic plants." Lauren swallowed. "No, we do something we should have done first." She held up the crumpled letter and smoothed it carefully, like it mattered. "We listen." Ethan laughed once, bitter. "Listen to what?" "He thinks we're thieves." Lauren stared at the signature at the bottom. Dad, because we sounded like thieves, she said. And we didn't even notice. That evening, my phone buzzed again and again. Missed calls, messages, a voicemail from Lauren, then another from Ethan, and then, finally, one from Lauren that didn't sound like strategy. Dad, it's me, she began. No bright tone, no controlling warmth, just a tremble she couldn't hide. I'm at the house. I read your letter. I didn't know you heard that call. And I'm sorry. I'm not saying that to fix it. I'm saying it because it's true. She paused, and I could hear her breathing. I was scared, she continued. And Ethan kept talking like everything was a problem to solve. I let it happen. I let you become a problem. I didn't mean to, but I did. My thumb hovered over the screen. I could have answered. I could have ended the silence right there. But something in me, something that had carried years of quiet swallowing, needed to stay still a little longer. I set the phone down. The next morning, I walked the garden path at Harbor Glen, listening to the gravel under my shoes. A woman named Doris waved from her balcony. A man in a knit cap nodded politely near the community garden. Simple people, simple routines. No one here looked at me like I was a number. When I returned my unit, there was a letter slid under my door. Actual paper, actual ink, Lauren's handwriting. Dad, I don't know where you are, and I don't know if you'll read this, but I needed to write it without a ringtone between us. I heard myself on that call last night in my head, and it made me sick. You didn't deserve to be spoken about like that. Mom will be ashamed of me. And honestly, Dad, I'm ashamed of me too. I think somewhere along the way I started treating your kindness like a resource instead of a gift. I didn't notice when my gratitude turned into expectation. I didn't notice when Ethan started talking about your life like it was a project for us to control. I didn't stop it. I agreed with it. I thought I was being responsible, but I was being selfish. I don't want the house. I want my father back. I know I may not deserve that. I just needed you to know the truth. Love, Lauren. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it beside Margaret's photo on my new shelf. I didn't forgive her instantly. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's a slow rebuilding. And I was tired of rebuilding for other people. But for the first time since that call, I felt something softer than anger. I felt grief, clean, honest grief. I didn't call her that day. I didn't even pick up a pen to answer. I carried her letter with me like a stone in my pocket, feeling its weight every time I moved. Part of me wanted to rush back into the old roles. Father who smooths things over, man who pretends it didn't hurt so everyone else can breathe easier. But another part of me, the part that finally woke up, refused. 2 days later, Mia called to confirm the closing date. 10 days became 7. The buyer was ready. The money verified. The signatures lined up like dominoes. When I hung up, I sat at my small kitchen table and stared at the single plate, the single mug, the quiet view of maples beyond the window. This life was smaller, but it was mine. No one was circling it with an appetite. That afternoon, Lauren called again. I let it ring until the last second, then answered with a simple, hello? Her inhale broke over the line. Dad. One word, and suddenly she sounded younger. Please don't hang up. I'm not, I said. Silence. Then, where are you? Safe, I replied. And I'm still thinking. She swallowed audibly. I didn't want you gone. I wanted you managed, and I hate myself for admitting that. I closed my eyes. That's the most honest thing you've said in years. Is the house, are you really selling it? Yes. A small sound escaped her, half protest, half regret. But that's Mom. That's you. No, I said, keeping my voice steady. It was us, and you turned it into a prize. So I'm letting it go before it turns into a weapon. She started to cry, soft and restrained. I'm sorry. I know, I said, but sorry doesn't buy back trust. It just opens the door to rebuilding it. What do I do? She whispered. You start by living with what you chose. I answered. And if you still want a relationship with me after that, we'll talk again. After the call, I set the phone down and sat in the quiet, not triumphant, not broken, just awake. Outside, the wind moved the branches like a slow exhale. The closing day arrived like a calm tide. No drama, no fireworks, just paperwork and finality. Todd met me at a small office downtown. Mia was there too, efficient and discreet. I signed my name where they pointed, page after page, until the house that had carried my entire adult life became a line item in the file. When the last signature dried, Todd slid a document toward me. "It's done," he said gently. "Done." Mia offered a sympathetic smile. "You handled this with strength, Frank." Strength. People always said that to men who were forced to do hard things alone. I walked out into the cold air and sat in my car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I didn't cry, not because I didn't feel it, but because grief had already spent itself in the weeks leading here. The house had stopped being mine the moment I heard my daughter describe it as her future. On my way back to Harbor Glen, I drove a different route on purpose. I didn't pass Deerfield Lane. I didn't want to see the porch, the swing, the window where Margaret used to wave when I came home late from work. I didn't want nostalgia to pull me into surrender. That evening, Lauren texted, "Did you really sell it?" I replied with one word, "Yes." A minute later, "Why?" I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, then I typed, "Because you were planning to take it." Her reply came slower. "I know. I didn't think you would do it." That sentence hit harder than she realized. She didn't think I would do it. She didn't think I could. I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, but out of truth. There were things she needed to sit with, and I couldn't carry them for her anymore. Later, alone in my unit, I opened the small box I brought with me, the one labeled Margaret. I held her lavender scarf up to my face and breathed in what was left of her. Then I folded it and put it back carefully, like something sacred. I whispered into the quiet, "We kept our dignity, love." 2 mornings after the closing, a knock came to my door at Harbor Glen, not the polite tap of a neighbor. This one carried urgency, the kind that says someone has driven too far with too much emotion. When I opened it, Lauren stood there alone. No Ethan, no sunglasses. Her eyes were swollen, her coat half buttoned, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. For a second, she just stared at me, as if she needed proof I was real and not a consequence. "Dad," she said, "I'm not here to talk about the house." I didn't step aside. "Then why are you here?" She swallowed, forcing the words out. "Because Ethan called me selfish for apologizing. He said you manipulated me with guilt. Then he asked how much you got for the sale, and started listing what we could do with it if you came to your senses." My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed level. "And what did you say?" I told him there is no we in your money. Her chin trembled. I told him if he can't respect you, he can't have me either. Silence filled the hallway. A door down the hall clicked shut. Somewhere, a radio played faintly. Lauren's eyes dropped to my hands, the same hands that once braided her hair before school. "I should have defended you sooner," she whispered. I looked at her for a long moment. I wanted to pull her into my arms. I wanted to push her away. Instead, I opened the door wider. "Come in," I said. "But understand this, Lauren. You're not coming back to the old version of me." She nodded, tears spilling now. "I don't want the old version," she said. "I want the one who finally chose himself." We sat at my small table, 2 mugs of tea cooling between us. And for the first time in years, she listened without trying to steer the conversation anywhere. When she asked if I would ever forgive her, I didn't answer with comfort. "I'm willing," I said, "but forgiveness is inheritance. It's work, and you'll feel that work every time you're tempted to treat love like a contract." She wiped her cheeks and whispered, "I'll do it." Lauren stayed for nearly 2 hours. Not to argue, not to bargain, just to speak like a daughter again. She told me Ethan had been angry for weeks, not about my safety, but about timing. He wanted everything settled before I could change my mind. "He said you owe us," she admitted, staring into her tea. "Like love is a payment plan." I watched her carefully. "And what do you believe?" She lifted her eyes. "I believe I forgot who built my life. I let him rewrite the story until I sounded like him. When she left, she hugged me with hesitation, like she didn't trust her right to. I didn't stop her. I hugged her back, then let go first. Boundaries, even in tenderness. That night, my phone rang again. Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. Frank, he said, using my name like a shove. You've created a mess. Lauren is upset, and you're hiding in some retirement box while the rest of us deal with the fallout. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm living. He laughed sharp. You sold the house out of spite. I sold it because you were planning to take it. That's not what happened, he snapped. We were protecting you, and now you've thrown away what should have stayed in the family. It stayed in the family, I replied. It stayed with me until you tried to turn it into yours. His breath hissed through the line. So what? You're going to hoard the money too? I'm going to use it to finish my life with dignity, I said. And here's the part you need to hear. My daughter is not your leverage. Silence. Then Ethan's voice dropped. She'll come around. No, I said. She'll wake up. And if she chooses you, it won't be for what you can get. I ended the call before he could answer. My hands didn't shake this time. I sat by the window and watched the sunset bleed gold across the maples. And for the first time, I felt something like protection settle over me, quiet and firm. In the glass, my reflection looked older but steadier. Not abandoned, not owned, just free. A week passed. Lauren called once. Then again 2 days later, never asking for money, never circling back to the house. She asked about my meals, my walks, the view from the window, ordinary questions, the kind that used to be automatic before everything turned into an agenda. On Saturday morning, she showed up with a small paper bag from the bakery near my old job site. Cinnamon rolls, she said, holding out like an offering. Mom's favorite. I took it, and the smell pulled me back. Margaret in the kitchen, flour on her cheek, laughing at my terrible attempts to knead dough. Lauren watched my face, softened, and didn't speak for a moment. I talked to a counselor. She said finally, just one session. I told her what I did, what we were planning. My eyes stayed on the bag. And she asked me when I started treating you like a problem. Lauren said, I didn't have an answer, but I know it wasn't one day. It was little choices, little excuses. I nodded once. That's how most betrayals happen. Lauren's hands twisted together. Ethan says you're turning me against him. And what do you say? I asked. I say he showed me who he is, she whispered. And I ignored it because it was easier. The honesty in her voice didn't erase the past, but it did something else. It stopped it from growing. Before she left, Lauren placed a small envelope on my table. It's not about the house, she said quickly. It's an apology. In writing. For real. No conditions. After she walked out, I opened it. Inside was a photo of Margaret and me on the porch this summer. We finished the house. Sun in our eyes. Lauren a toddler on my shoulders. On the back, Lauren had written, I forgot what this was. I'm trying to remember. I held the photo a long time, then set it beside Margaret's scarf. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was waiting to be hurt again. I was watching my daughter learn that love isn't a title deed. It's a choice made fresh or not made at all. And this time, she was choosing. The next time Ethan appeared, it wasn't with a phone call. It was with paperwork. 2 days after Lauren brought the cinnamon rolls, Todd Fisher called me. Frank, he said, I wanted you to hear this from me first. Ethan contacted my office. He's asking about the sale proceeds and whether your daughter has any marital claim. I stared at the wall, feeling an old anger try to rise. And Todd's tone stayed calm. There is no claim. The funds are yours. But I'm advising you to protect yourself. If you want, we can set up a trust, outline beneficiaries, and add conditions that prevent anyone from pressuring you later. After the call, I sat with that word. Pressure, that was what had changed my life. Not age, not loneliness. Pressure disguised as love. That afternoon I met Todd again, not in fear, but with a kind of deliberate steadiness. We drafted documents that made my choices unshakable. a trust for my living expenses, medical care, and whatever years I had left. A separate portion set aside for something Margaret and I used to talk about when the news felt too heavy. Helping kids who didn't have what Lauren had. When Todd asked if I wanted to leave anything directly to Lauren, I paused. I do, I said, but not the way she expected. So we wrote it clearly. Lauren would receive something meaningful, but only if she stayed involved personally, not through Ethan, not through demands. Visits, calls, a relationship built on effort, not entitlement. If she vanished again, the money would go where it could do real good. It wasn't revenge. It was structure. I spent my whole career building things that didn't collapse under stress. Family shouldn't be any different. That night, I told Lauren the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I'm putting protections in place, I said over the phone. Not to punish you, to keep me safe. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, I understand. And for the first time, I believed her, not because she sounded sorry, but because she didn't argue. Lauren came the following Sunday, alone again. She didn't announce it like a visit was a favor. She knocked, waited, and when I opened the door, she looked me in the eye. I told Ethan to stop calling lawyers, she said. He said he has a right to know. And what did you tell him? I asked. That rights are earned, she replied, voice quiet but firm. And he hasn't earned yours. We sat in the lounge downstairs where the big window faced the maples. A few residents played cards at a corner table, laughing softly. Ordinary life, happening without permission from the past. Lauren rubbed her palms together. He wants me to fight you, she admitted. He keeps saying you're being influenced, that someone talked you into this. I almost smiled. I built bridges, Lauren. You think I can be talked into something I don't want? Her mouth tightened. I think I spent years assuming you'd always choose peace over honesty. That landed clean. I nodded once. And you learned that peace without honesty is just silence. She blinked fast. I'm leaving him, she said, suddenly. Not today, but I've started the process. I found a place to stay if I need to. I'm not asking you to fix it. I can't unsee what I saw. The room felt very still. I heard Margaret's old warning in my head, the one I ignored for years. Don't give her so much that she forgets to be grateful. I'm not here to judge you, I said, but understand this. If you walk away, do it because you're choosing a better life, not because you're running from guilt. Lauren nodded, tears slipping anyway. I want to choose better, she whispered, even if it's late. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. It's not late if you're finally awake. Outside, the wind moved through the branches like a hymn. And for the first time since that phone call, I felt something I hadn't dared to expect. Lauren walked me to my door and lingered there, as if stepping away might erase the progress she'd made. Can I come back next week? She asked. You don't need permission to be my daughter, I said, but you do need to keep showing up. She smiled through wet eyes. I will. After she left, I sat by the window and watched the late sun catch the tops of the maples. For years, I'd measured my worth by what I could provide. Tuition paid, roofs fixed, emergency solved. Now I measured it by something quieter, whether I could look in the mirror and recognize the man staring back. That night, my phone chimed. One message from an unknown number. Frank, this is Ethan. You're making a huge mistake. I deleted it without replying. The next morning, I took Lauren's photo of us on the porch and placed it beside Margaret's scarf and recipe box. Then I opened the small notebook I'd started keeping since moving here and wrote a single line. Love is not a deed. Love is a decision. A week later, Lauren returned, not with a demand, but with a casserole and a shy laugh at how ridiculous it felt to carry comfort food like a peace offering. We ate together. We talked about her childhood, about her mother, about all the moments we'd rushed past without noticing they were the ones that mattered. Before she went home, she hugged me tightly and whispered, I'm sorry I tried to push you away. I held her a moment, then said the only truth I had left to give. You can walk away from a house. I told her, but you don't get to walk away from what you become. She nodded, understanding at last. When the door closed, the room didn't feel empty. It felt finished, like a foundation finally set. And for the first time in a long time, I made tea not for the scent, but to drink it warm and real while the sunset turned the whole world gold. I still miss Margaret every day, but the ache no longer frightened me. She had loved fiercely, and she had warned gently. Now, in this small life, I understood her wisdom. I wasn't leaving my daughter behind. I was leaving the version of myself that could be traded, and somehow that was grace.